The Stone Age is the longest period in human history. It began more than 3 million years ago, long before writing or cities existed. During this time, early humans lived as hunters and gatherers. They did not farm land or build permanent homes. Instead, they moved from place to place in search of food. The most important change of this era was the use of stone tools. Early humans learned how to shape stones into sharp edges. These tools were used to cut meat, hunt animals, and prepare food. Later, humans learned how to control fire. This was a major turning point. Fire provided warmth, protection, and a way to cook food. Cooked food was easier to eat and helped the brain grow over time. As tools improved, daily life slowly changed. People became better hunters. They learned to work together in small groups. Simple forms of communication and social rules began to form. Over thousands of years, humans spread across different continents. They adapted to cold climates, deserts, and forests. Each environment shaped how they lived and survived. The Stone Age did not end suddenly. It slowly gave way to new technologies. Eventually, humans learned to farm and use metal. But everything that came later, cities, language, culture, and civilization, was built on the skills first developed during the Stone Age. This period marks the true beginning of human history. The Bronze Age began around 3300 BC. This period marked a major shift in how humans lived and worked. The key change was the use of metal. People learned to mix copper and tin to create bronze. Bronze was stronger than stone and easier to shape. This new material changed daily life. Tools became sharper and lasted longer. Weapons became more effective. Farming tools improved, allowing people to grow more food. Because of better farming, populations increased. Small villages grew into towns. Some towns became early cities. Trade also expanded during this time. People exchanged metal, food, and goods across long distances. This connected different regions and cultures. As societies grew, new social systems formed. Leaders gained power. Rules and laws began to appear. Not everyone had the same status or wealth. Writing systems also started to develop. They were first used to track trade, taxes, and supplies. This was the beginning of recorded history. The Bronze Age did not end everywhere at the same time. In some regions, it lasted for centuries longer than others. Eventually, iron replaced bronze as the main material. But the Bronze Age laid the foundation for organized society. Cities, trade networks, and early governments all grew from this period. It was a turning point that pushed human history forward. The Iron Age began around 1200 BCE in many parts of the world. This period followed the Bronze Age and brought another major change. The key difference was the use of iron. Iron was harder to work with than bronze, but it was much stronger and far more common. Because iron was easier to find, tools became cheaper to make. More people could own weapons and farming tools. This shifted the balance of power in many societies. Farming improved again during this time. Iron plows could cut through tougher soil. Food production increased, and populations grew. As societies expanded, conflicts became more common. Armies grew larger. Weapons became more durable. Wars were no longer limited to elites with rare materials. Large kingdoms and empires began to form. Some governments became more organized. Laws, taxes, and public systems grew more complex. Trade networks also expanded. Iron goods moved across regions. Ideas, beliefs, and technologies spread with them. The Iron Age did not end suddenly. In different regions, it blended into new historical periods. Writing became more common, and history became better recorded. Much of the ancient world was shaped during this time. Political power, warfare, and daily life all changed. The Iron Age helped set the stage for the rise of classical civilizations. The Classical Age began around 800 BCE and lasted for many centuries. This period is known for the rise of powerful civilizations. Some of the most famous societies formed during this time. These included ancient Greece, Rome, Persia, India, and China. Cities grew larger and more organized. Governments became more structured. Laws were written down and enforced. In Greece, people began to explore new ideas. They asked questions about politics, science, and human life. This led to early forms of democracy and philosophy. Rome expanded through conquest. It built roads, cities, and legal systems. Roman law would later influence many modern governments. Trade increased across land and sea. Goods moved between continents. Ideas and cultures spread with them. Writing became common during this era. Histories, poems, and legal texts were recorded. This is why we know more about this period than earlier ones. Large armies and long wars were also part of the Classical Age. Empires rose and fell over time. Power shifted between regions. Eventually, many classical civilizations weakened. Some collapsed due to invasion, internal conflict, or economic strain. Even so, their influence lasted. Ideas about government, law, and culture continued long after the empires fell. The Classical Age shaped much of the world that followed. The Middle Ages began around 500 CE, after the fall of the Roman Empire. This period lasted for nearly 1,000 years. In Europe, strong central governments disappeared. Power became local. Kings, nobles, and lords controlled small areas of land. This system is known as feudalism. Most people were farmers. They worked the land in exchange for protection. Life during this time was often hard. Travel was slow. Communication was limited. Most people never left the place where they were born. Religion played a major role in daily life. The church influenced education, laws, and culture. It was one of the few institutions that connected different regions. Castles were built for defense. Wars between kingdoms were common. Armies were small, but constant. Trade slowly returned over time. Towns began to grow again. Markets and crafts became more important. Outside Europe, powerful civilizations continued to rise. The Islamic world made advances in science and medicine. China developed new technologies like paper and gunpowder. Toward the end of the Middle Ages, major changes began to appear. New trade routes opened. Cities grew larger. Old systems started to weaken. These changes would soon lead to a new era in history. The Middle Ages set the stage for the modern world. The early modern period began around 1500 CE. This era marked a major turning point in world history. One of the biggest changes was the revival of learning. People in Europe began to study ancient Greek and Roman texts again. This movement is known as the Renaissance. Artists, writers, and thinkers focused more on human life and experience. Painting, science, and literature all advanced during this time. People started to question old ideas and traditions. Another major change was exploration. European nations began sailing across the oceans. They searched for new trade routes and new lands. These voyages connected different parts of the world. Goods, people, and ideas moved between continents. This process is often called global trade. But exploration also had dark consequences. Colonization caused violence and exploitation. Many native populations were displaced or destroyed. Religion was another source of change. The Protestant Reformation challenged the power of the Catholic Church. New Christian groups formed across Europe. These religious conflicts led to wars and political tension. Governments became more involved in religious life. Over time, this helped shape modern nation-states. Technology continued to improve. The printing press made books cheaper and easier to produce. Information spread faster than ever before. Science also began to change how people viewed the world. New discoveries challenged traditional beliefs about nature and space. This period laid the groundwork for modern science. By the end of the early modern period, societies were changing quickly. Trade networks were global. Political power was shifting. Old systems were under pressure. This era connected the medieval world to the modern age. Many ideas we live with today began during this time. The modern era began around 1800 CE. This period is marked by rapid change across the world. One of the biggest forces of this era was the Industrial Revolution. Machines began to replace hand labor. Factories produced goods faster and cheaper than ever before. As industries grew, cities expanded quickly. Millions of people moved from farms to urban areas. Daily life changed in a short amount of time. New technologies appeared one after another. Steam engines, railroads, and electricity reshaped society. Travel and communication became faster and easier. Political ideas also shifted during this time. People began to demand rights and representation. Revolutions changed governments in many countries. Nations grew stronger and more organized. At the same time, competition between them increased. This led to conflicts on a global scale. The 20th century was especially violent. 2 world wars caused massive destruction and loss of life. New weapons made warfare more deadly. After these wars, the world began to reorganize. International groups were formed to prevent future conflicts. Many former colonies gained independence. Technology continued to shape modern life. Computers, the internet, and digital media changed how people work and connect. Information now moves almost instantly. The modern era is still unfolding today. Its challenges include climate change, inequality, and global tension. Its opportunities include innovation and cooperation. This period shows how quickly the world can change. The decisions made in this era continue to affect everyday life.